Energy think tanks, Africa Center for Energy ACEP, and the Institute for Energy Security CIES are warning government against plans to review the Ameri Deal. According to the latest finding by ACEP on the controversial deal, government will spend more to review it and pay more than the original cost of the contracts. The Institute for Energy Security feels the deal in its current form is fraught with misleading figures and will overburden the Ghanaian with high electricity tariffs. Before we hear from ACEP and the Institute for Energy Security, as well as the minority on their concerns about moves by government, here's a wrap of how Parliament has been debating the issue, as well as others before the House went on a break.
The new deal, seeking to replace the original $510 million deal signed by the Mahama administration, is currently before the Joint Mines and Energy as well as Finance Committees of Parliament. The Joint Committee has put the processes to approve it on ice until the Energy Minister delivers to Parliament 5 critical documents on the transaction. Majority Leader Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu says the Attorney General and the Finance Minister all agreed to the decision.
Very consultative in this. And we're talking about clawing back some gains to the state. If people are raising issues about the gains that we are clawing back, to say that, but put together we may not even get anything, or maybe it will be minimal. Some are even saying that we may even end up spending more. We need to interrogate the figures to know that what we are doing, what decision that we are taking is in the best interest of the country. And I spoke to the Finance Minister, I spoke to the Attorney General, and we all decided, plus the Minister responsible for Energy, and we decided to tarry a while, have a closer look at it, and then I guess when we come back, in about a month or so time when we shall come back, these things would have been well done and well considered, and then we'll be in a position to take a decision.
Is this to say the innovation agreement was done in a rush, given the fact
I've not said so. I've not said so. I've not said so.
Okay. Can we
but you cannot. But even bills that we do, they are not sacrosanct. Occasionally you do introspection and then realize that there's something that we could have done better. If there's anything that we could do better as a country in interrogating these agreements, why not? It's the only reason.
Is assurance,
we want to do what is best for this country.
Is the assurance that value for money will take precedence over anything as far as Parliament is concerned?
There are many issues, including that.
Parliament's Privileges Committee has also recommended the suspension or reprimand of Asin Central MP Kennedy Japong for calling the House cheap and useless.
Well, so it was quite an event on Saturday as Parliament sat before their break. They're expected back sometime next month. But Executive Director of ACEP, Ben Boachi, has been explaining to my colleague Israel Lai the cost implications of the intended review government is seeking to push through.
If you look at the numbers, we signed a contract with Ameri for $510 million. And we have already executed 2.5 years of that agreement, which means that $255 million is committed, and we have to pay for it. So what we are actually negotiating is the 2.5 years, which is another $255 million. We have an outstanding payments that we have to make, which the new company is proposing to assume about $52 million of that. So in total, you're talking about $300 million liability that is being assumed by the new company. And you look at the cash flow that has been granted to this new company. We are going to be paying $75 million a year for 15 years. And that brings it to $1.125 billion dollars of cash flow, and we think that is definitely on the high side. If you add that to what we have paid already, it means that the contract sum for Ameri and as a miscellaneous company, we are going to pay about $1.3 billion in cash flow. It cannot be right, for a 250 megawatts power plant. So it was just on those bases that we think the agreement is not right. Now, I think what we have seen is enough for us. There is no other document that makes $75 million a year, $1.125 billion dollars, cash flow for the new company rights. That is way too much for that power plant. And we can conclude based on what we have that we're going to pay too much for that. Because if you have 300 million to pay, on what basis do you negotiate that for 1.125 over 15 years? So that is way too high. Again, government insisted consistently that we were paying Ameri for work they do not, money they don't deserve, or work they are not doing. As a middleman, we're paying them $30 million a year because they outsourced the entire contract for $360 million. So essentially, Metka, which is the EPC contractor, was getting $72 million a year for having executed the contract. Under this new regime, or this new contract, Metka has brought a sister company to take $75 million a year. I mean, so what makes it better? So we have done analysis of that. If you look at the 2.5 years or 2.5 years that is left, what government is avoiding is essentially the $30 million that will go to Ameri every year. So put that together, and it's only $75 million of payment you are avoiding. So why would you avoid $75 million when you pay 1.125 billion? It doesn't make sense.
Beyond the advocacy, is ACEP willing or intending to probably do anything about it, go to court?
I mean, you see, this is our system. We grant everything to the politician, and once they decide, it's only Parliament that can save us. If Parliament, the representatives of all of us, agree that they should go ahead with the deal, we have no say, and that's what has happened with many of the deals. And Parliament will do all of us good if this time around they can be firm and look at the document before them and say, enough of this. We cannot continue to approve this kind of deal.
All right.
Now let's get onto the phone now and speak with the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security, Mr. Kwesi Anamwa, over their concerns on what they term as leading figures and inadequate claims that will eventually affect the lives of the Ghanaian taxpayer. Good morning, Mr. Kwesi Anamwa, and thanks for your time.
Good morning, Dennis, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Right, thank you. Now, can you explain to us the misleading portions and inadequate claims that you say are contained in the current agreement forwarded to the Joint Committee of Parliament?
Thank you once again, Dennis. I think that in a memo that the Finance Ministry, the Energy Ministry sent to Parliament, Committee on Finance and Mines and Energy, they did indicate that the average rate for the tariff is somewhere around 14.5918 US cents per kilowatt hour. We think that this is misleading because in the Ameri agreement, it is the first 5 years in order to recover the cost of the equipment that there is a tariff charge of 14.5918. The proceeding 6th year to the 20th year, the 15 years, the rates will be reduced to 10.4149 US cents per kilowatt hour. When you put these two figures together over the 20-year period, you are getting an average tariff rate of 11.4591 US cents per kilowatt hour and not 14.518. This is quite misleading. Also, because they use the 14.519 as against what Miscellaneous is providing, they are getting a differential of 2.8793 US cents per kilowatt hour. And they see this as savings. There is no savings here because they use the wrong figure. And so this is quite misleading. We rather think that if Miscellaneous is going to charge 11.7125 US cents per kilowatt hour, as against the average rate of 11.4, then of course there is a loss to the state.
All right. You also say that you are scandalized by the lack of due diligence. How did you arrive at that conclusion that there was no due diligence?
Of course, we are shocked that the ministry will be able to quote, for example, if you did due diligence, then you will understand the figures well, because there is another document that is coming from a VRA committee commissioned by the same energy ministry. And then I tell you what, their recommendation is not to even bequeath or transfer the assets to another person. The best option said that we should maintain what we have currently, because the miscellaneous contract is not a good one. I am sure if they did a better engagement and they look at the economics world, they will have come out with the right figures and the right claim that we are going to make a saving when we are not going to make a saving. And so we are quite shocked that this is the way they took it.
You also refer to miscellaneous as a needless operator.
Do we need miscellaneous? I don't think we need miscellaneous to do this. You see, first 5 years after they have operated Ameri, the equipment becomes Ghana's property. And VRA has the capacity to run this plant. And so why do we need to introduce another person who has an economic interest to come and take the facility and run for 15 years? Definitely they are not here as Santa Claus. They are here to make money. Why don't we wait for the next 2.5 years to expire and the property becomes ours and VRA runs this equipment? I don't think that we need miscellaneous in this equation.
Well, government has tagged this new agreement as a renegotiation, but you think there's no renegotiation here at all. So in your own words, how would you call this agreement that is currently before the joint committees of finance and mines and energy?
We think that the whole agreement is not in good taste. It stinks. It is not good. It's bad. It's meant to make us worse off. And so we don't see the negotiation that they did here. We think that there is something wrong with the whole agreement. They should look at the financial and economic analysis again. They should listen to the advice of VRA. They should engage civil society groups. And I think that they will get the economics right. It is bad. We are going to lose. And the taxpayer will end up paying more for electricity in future. You understand we have a lot of our own social challenges where we need to make savings so that we can do a good infrastructure, we can support the free SHS, we can support other social amenities. We think it's in a bad taste. And they should not present this thing once again to Parliament.
Mr. Anamwasichi, finally, the majority leader in Parliament, Osei Mensapunsu, says the House was not able to pass the agreement or approve the agreement because of some of the concerns raised by energy think tanks like yourself and other concerned individuals. Well, are you satisfied with that step taken by Parliament, and do you have hope that your concerns will be fully addressed?
I'm sure our concerns will be addressed. If the majority leader did indicate this, I've also read it, and I think they will take a second look at the whole thing, and we'll move it forward. But if they don't do, then of course we are in a very bad situation as we find ourselves. I'm convinced they will take a second look at it.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Kwesi Anamwasichi's Executive Secretary of IES. Let's hear the minority spokesperson on energy, Adam Mutawakilu, on the amendment or renegotiation of the deal.
So they have renegotiated. They have brought it to us in a form of novation agreement. And as ranking, it's my interest to ensure that the good people of Ghana benefit. So we'll go through the document critically, put all the concerns we have before the minister to answer, and then we take our decision as minority either to support it or not.
Okay. But from Kerry look, will the good people of Ghana benefit eventually from this new deal compared to the old deal, which your colleagues on the majority side say was bad, which is how come they want a revision?
From my own observation and what I have read, I don't see this one to be anything good. But that will depend if the minister is able to explain and clear himself better. But for now, as I've not met the ministry and the minister, this agreement is terrible.
Oh, you think the agreement is terrible? It's
terrible.
It's worse than what you signed with Ameri initially?
Ameri agreement was not terrible. It wasn't bad as such. Because at the end of the day, the Attorney General vindicated the agreement. They claim that it cost 510 million when it's supposed to be 360 million. Let's wait. When we meet the minister, we want to ensure that in that agreement, the cost of the equipment is 360 million. Anything beyond 360 million, you know we will not accept it as a minority. No. That one we will not accept. He has set a basis that the cost of the equipment is supposed to be 360 million, and that 150 million, Ameri was taking it free. The innovation agreement, we want to ensure that the capacity charges, that is to pay back for the equipment, is 360 million. That is our first step.
From your reading, is it lower than that? From the documents?
From the information I have, it's more than twice that amount.
This will definitely be one of the topical issues when Parliament reconvenes. Expect us to bring you the very latest on that.